Welcome to Fireside Gaming. I'm Billum, and I'm happy to see that the Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection is finally almost here. I reviewed the first Battle Network game about a year and a half ago, and I told myself I'd get around to the others when this collection came out. Granted, I didn't expect it to take so long for the collection to release, but I do get that 2021 and 2022 kinda sucked. So the delay makes sense. But there is one problem with this new Battle Network collection. It doesn't include all the games. Sure, it has the main entries, but what about the side games? There's quite a few of them, and truthfully, not all of them are worth playing. Even so, there's one in particular that I really wanted to check out before moving on to Battle Network 2. That's Mega Man Network Transmission. Network Transmission is an interesting side game as it takes place in between Battle Network 1 and 2. Even more interesting is that it doesn't follow the Battle Network formula. Instead, the game mixes the card and deck system from Battle Network with the jump and shoot gameplay of the classic Mega Man series. Considering I skipped out on the Battle Network series as a kid because it wasn't Mega Man, this sounds like it would have been right up my alley. Or is it? We'll talk about that more later, but now I want to dive into the story of Network Transmission. Fair warning, there will be spoilers in this review for both Network Transmission and Battle Network 1. There's going to be a lot of new Battle Network players coming into the series, and I wouldn't want to ruin anything for them. Mega Man Network Transmission picks up 1 month after the events of Battle Network. With Dr. Wily's evil WWW organization defeated, there's been a calm over Cyberworld. MegaMan.EXE appreciates this lack of action, but Lan is growing bored with nothing to do. However, life doesn't remain dull for long as a new virus, dubbed the Zero Virus, is spreading across Cyberworld. This virus infects net navis, causing them to rampage. Lan's interested in learning more about this virus, but first he gets a request from his friend Mail. Roll, her net navi, has gone missing, and she needs Lan and Mega Man's help in finding her. This has Mega Man jacking in to search the local cyberworld for Roll. He finds her and learns that she's been unable to return home as the section of the cyberworld leading to Mail's house is covered in fire. It turns out Fireman is blocking the path, but he's not working for the WWW anymore. Instead, he's just out causing problems. Mega Man defeats Fireman, and his operator match reveals that he wasn't in control of the Navi. Instead, Fireman was infected by the Zero Virus. It turns out that Match bought a fake vaccine, which actually infected Fireman with the Zero Virus. Lan's father, Yuichiro, warns him to stay out of it, and Lan agrees, but then immediately heads out to search for the cause of the Zero Virus and the person spreading the bad vaccine. This has them running into Starman. The Navi confirms that he's the one that's been selling the fake Zero Virus vaccine, but runs away before Mega Man can stop him. Instead, the two have to fight Guts Man, which has also been infected by the virus. After this, Lan has another talk with his dad about the Zero Virus and vaccine, and about how it hacks the control of a net navi to take it away from the navigator. Yet again, Lan is told to stay put and not do anything, but then he gets a series of emails from his friends and mother, all who need his help. Zero Virus is causing problems all over town, and it's up to Lan and Mega Man to stop it. After taking down 4 navis corrupted by the Zero Virus, the player gets to see behind the scene with what Starman has been doing. He's speaking to a mysterious figure and confirms it's the entity that's responsible for creating the Zero Virus. It does so just by existing. Starman notes that the Zero Virus has been researching the outside cyberworld, but reminds it that it only exists for one purpose. Afterwards, we switch back to Lan as he talks more of his dad about the Zero Virus. Chad and Proto Man also pop in to tell Lan and Mega Man not to get further involved. Of course, this just fires Lan up more, and he proceeds to search for additional details about the Zero Virus. After getting ambushed by Electman, Lan's father confirms that Mega Man has been infected by the Zero Virus. His processes are slowing down, but Mega Man is still dedicated to learning more about the virus in hopes of finding a cure. Lan's father brings up an area called the Zero Account, which is an old cyberworld belonging to the WWW. Higsby, the operator of Numberman and former member of the WWW, confirms its existence and gives Lan and Mega Man access to the old WWW base, hoping they might find some clue there. Inside this old area, the two discover a strange source code and send it to Lan's father. They also encounter Proto Man, who's been defeated by Swordman. Mega Man takes Swordman down and earns a link code for his trouble. The two continue their search, defeat Gravity Man, and claim another link code. As the two investigate further, Lan's father contacts them with great news. The code they found is the source code for the Zero virus. With it, Yuichiro crafted a Zero virus vaccine, which he gives to MegaMan. No longer hindered by the Zero virus, the two search even more of the cyberworld before coming into contact with Starman. He gives them some hints about what's happening, including mentioning Zero. After his defeat, the two get yet another link code. This finally allows them access to the Zero account. In here, they meet Zero and learn that he's a virus that evolved to become a NetNavi. Unfortunately, he can't control his ability to spread the Zero virus. Because of that, he fights MegaMan. After his defeat, he tells MegaMan to delete him, but he and Lan refuse, claiming that Zero isn't evil. At this point, Proto Man shows up and plans to delete Zero per Chod's orders, but before that can happen, Lan's father steps in with some more great news. Since he has Zero's source code, he can steal his virus-spreading ability, turning him into a normal Navi. But before this can happen, a new villain, simply named Professor, appears. He's an old colleague of Dr. Wily that's revived the WWW and also recreated the life virus that Lan and MegaMan stopped at the end of Battle Network. He plans to fulfill Wily's wish to destroy the world with the life virus. In order to stop them, MegaMan needs access to the Professor's cyber world, which has him seeking out authorization codes to enter it. The first he tries to get is destroyed by Shadow Man, but they take the fragments with them anyway. They search for another authorization code guarded by Pharaoh Man, but it is too old for use with modern computers. Instead, Lan's father uses the old code to restore the broken one, giving Lan access to the Undernet that holds the Professor's hideout. The Undernet proves to be a tough place to get through with powerful viruses all over the place. Luckily for MegaMan, his friends come to help. That includes Proto Man and Guts Man taking out the enemies for him, as well as Roll healing him before his final battle with Life Virus R. The battle against the revived Life Virus is no walk in the park, but MegaMan succeeds in taking out both of its forms. The Professor taunts the two, claiming that he'll just remake the virus again. But before that can happen, the police show up at his house and arrest him. It turns out that Zero used his abilities to see through the viruses to track down the location of the Professor and alert the authorities. Afterwards, Zero departs on a journey to explore the cyber world, no longer plagued by his birth as a virus. With another calamity behind them, Lan and MegaMan decide it's time for a break as they both enjoy some time away from virus busting. But that peace may not last long. After the credits roll, we learn that Shadow Man is working for a new enemy. A mysterious figure named Mr. Dark is his operator, and the two plan to work alongside a new net crime organization called Gospel. But that story will have to wait until Mega Man Battle Network 2. The story of Mega Man Network Transmission is alright, but it's also a bit lacking. The problem is that it just reuses the life virus from Battle Network as the big bad again. Also, using a generic villain simply called Professor reeks of the developers not being allowed to do anything major with the game to avoid conflict with the main Battle Network games. Granted, the Zero stuff in the game is fun. It's nice to see a version of Zero that actually ends up happy. And yeah, this is the first and last appearance of Zero in these games as far as I can tell. I feel like that's a bit of a missed opportunity, but at the same time, maybe Capcom didn't want Zero to take over every series he appears in. He basically does this to the X series, and even got his own spin-off series as well. I do find it strange that Capcom isn't including Network Transmission as part of the Mega Man Battle Network Legacy Collection. It doesn't seem to conflict with anything else, and even offers a sequel hook into Battle Network 2. Also, Capcom has been uploading NT Warrior, the Battle Network anime adaptation, to YouTube, and it includes an arc that's based on this game. So it feels weird to leave it out, but that's whatever at this point. I already mentioned that Network Transmission doesn't play like a normal Battle Network game, but that doesn't mean it's completely different either. Instead of the grid-based combat the series is known for, this one has players jumping and shooting through 2D levels like you would find in a classic Mega Man game. Heck, there's even a Quick Man level complete with instant kill lasers, because I really needed more of that in my life. The Battle Network influence comes in the card system. Just like in those games, players can build decks and use cards from them during the game. It does change a few things, such as cards no longer being limited by letters. Instead, players just get 5 random cards to equip, but they can also choose a single card from their deck that is always available to them. I like the idea of mixing the card system with classic Mega Man gameplay, but Network Transmission doesn't quite nail it. For example, the game has a lot of places where there are special items hidden beyond obstacles. Oftentimes players will need a certain card to get past these. That might mean you need a double jump card or air dash, something along those lines. No matter the case, when the player doesn't have these cards, it means they have to reload their hand or just come back for the power-up later. This can really suck, as sometimes the randomness of this means players have to reload their cards 3 or 4 times before finally getting the one they need. And I have to point out that the custom bar from Battle Network is still here and has to fill up before you can reload your hand, which takes time. Even worse is if you've already used up that card, meaning that you have no choice but to come back after jacking out. That'll require players to traverse back to that point. The one advantage of this is that players can set the card they need as their favorite, so they'll have it for sure, but it's still a hassle. I'll also mention that players don't get some cards that they need to collect power-ups with until later, such as Double Jump. Because of that, they have no choice but to wait until later to grab these items. This gives the game an almost Metroidvania feel at times, but it's not executed well with the random cards and whatnot. One thing I will say is that players definitely want to seek out power-ups as often as possible. That's because Network Transmission also retains the RPG elements of Battle Network. Basically, players will gain more power through items. That includes the ability to upgrade Mega Man's Buster, as well as increasing the number of continues the player has, and more. In addition to that, there's a new armor system that grants players better resistances to different types of damage. These are incredibly useful early game when the player doesn't have a lot of powerful cards to work with, and are still helpful even in later levels. As far as boss battles go, Network Transmission can be pretty brutal, which makes sense considering its classic Mega Man influence. I had more than a few times where I got stomped hard by some of the bosses, and while this wouldn't bother me too much, the limited continues, or backups as this game calls them, can really harm the player. That's because it's a game over if players run out of lives. There's no option to continue, and instead you have to reload your game from the last save. And I'll point out that there's no auto-saving, only manual saving in this game. I can't find out for the life of me why Network Transmission went this route. The X series has been letting me continue right from the boss room for years since before this game came out, and there's really no excuse for it. That's doubly true in the early game when players are weaker and won't be able to as easily defeat bosses. Sure, you can jack out and save your game, but you still have to play through the level again after that to get back to the boss, as it doesn't give you a checkpoint just to take you right to them. It's incredibly frustrating, even more so with the final boss and the gauntlet, including the boss rush, that players have to go through to get to it. I actually got so frustrated with the battle against Life Virus R that I ended up putting the game down for a couple of weeks before coming back to it. That's because Life Virus R does this dumb gimmick of switching between elements, and players have to use the opposite element or a powerful enough attack to drop its guard before they can even hurt it. Considering the random nature of card battles, this is easier said than done. Also hurting players is the MP system for using cards. As you might guess, stronger cards take more MP to use. MP restores over time, but it is painfully slow. That means there were plenty of instances in the final battle where I just couldn't use powerful cards to drop the boss's shield and had to just try and dodge for my life so my bar would refill. Really, I only beat the final boss by luck, and I have no desire to ever do it again. But if we want to switch to positives, then Network Transmission is both a good-looking game and good-sounding game. It retains that same flair that Battle Network 1 has with its fun twist on classic Mega Man boss designs, and I'm all about it. And I do have to note that adding Zero this time around is our first introduction of an X character into the Battle Network timeline, and he looks great. He's basically like this edgy virus monstrosity, and even his face is stoic with this mask and everything. I really dig it. I think he looks cool, but he's never gonna come back. And that seems weird considering that I know some later games include characters where it would feel very appropriate to have this universe's version of Zero meet this universe's version of those characters. I'm trying to stay spoiler free here. Those who know, you know. I will say that some of the animations are a bit stiff. Watching Lan walk around his room and check his pet every few seconds is almost painful. But as a side note, I do love that he gains action figures of the NetNavi's Mega Man defeats as the game progresses. Moving on to the music, it's basically a collection of Battle Network songs revamped for the GameCube, and they sound great fleshed out with a more powerful sound card. There's also some new tracks to enjoy, and they all fit in well with the rest of the other music. Interestingly, Network Transmission retains its Japanese voice acting instead of switching over to English. This isn't anything major, and is even something we've seen from other Mega Man games around this era, but I did want to note it. Overall, Mega Man Network Transmission is an alright game. It's got some real problems that come from trying to mix the Battle Network and classic Mega Man game styles, but I see potential here. I kinda wish Capcom would have made more spin-offs like this and better refined the combination of these two gameplay styles. It could have really filled the 2D Mega Man gap GameCube players had to deal with in the 2000s since X7 and X8 only came out on the PS2. I'm going to continue with the Mega Man Battle Network series now that the Legacy Collection is basically out, but I can't say when I'll get around to Battle Network 2. RPGs take time, and I wouldn't want to rush through the series, even if YouTube's algorithm suggests that that's the right thing to do. So until next time, thank you for watching, and take it easy.